Well, here's my morning tea. As you can tell by my voice, I haven't been up very long. Oh, this is my cup of oolong tea. It has kind of a greenish yellow look to it. And I'm gonna be, I've got one more, I've got one more little jewel box to glaze before I have breakfast and sit down and drink this. And it's just gonna take a minute. So let me set you up on something where you can see. I'll put you on top of my lovely cookie jar. How's that? And then you can see what I'm doing. You know, I'm just glazing and I'm using a brush and I'm putting copper float on the outside of this. I'm not going to do the bottom. And then the inside of it is going to be a different color than the outside. Take a little sip of tea. We've been snowed in. Yesterday was the third day of the last snowstorm. Actually, it was an ice storm. And I couldn't take it anymore. So, and I have a front wheel drive car, so I felt like I could manage, and a lot of it did get up to 30 or 32 degrees. I think it got up to 30 yesterday, and I was able to manage through the ice on the neighborhood streets, and then when I got out on the main roads, it was just fine. So today, it's supposed to be spring-like, they said on the news. So I'm going to enjoy the spring-like weather. I'm kind of scrubbing this on here. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm scrubbing this into the chattering that's around the edge of this bowl. It isn't real deep chattering, but it's enough that it's going to have a little bit of, it'll show through the glaze, the texturing. So, sorry for the froggy voice. It'll be okay after I drink a little tea and have some more sunshine out here. I'll be all right. So, I like to use a fan brush when I'm glazing. Because you can kind of use it like a scoop, or you can get a pretty fine line with it if you want to use it, sideways and go like that. I go through brushes like crazy because most of my things, most of my pottery, I hand glaze with a brush. Number one, well, there are a couple of maybe 3 or 4 reasons why I do it that way. Number one, I get every part. I just like to tend to every square inch of my pots when I'm selling them and so forth. I'm very familiar with the pot, and I know all the little nuances of it by the time it's on the market, so to speak. And if I can catch any little flaws, then I will address it at the time that I'm glazing. It takes longer. It doesn't take up as much space in a studio. I guess I enjoyed when I used to belong to a group that had a public studio, and we had buckets, 5-gallon buckets of glaze, and that was all well and good, but all it took was one person to make a big mistake, and there goes 5 gallons of glaze. You've just ruined it. And so and there were, and like I said, it was public, so you just kind of, you know, it was kind of like renting space, I suppose. Everybody just kind of, it was a collective, and it cost money to be there and have a space there and all that, but it just and you didn't know that the glaze was ruined, the 5 gallons of glaze, until you glazed several of your pots in it, thinking that it was all gonna be okay, and it comes out all bubbly, or you know, something would be wrong with it, and it's so frustrating. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not above or beyond ruining my own 5 gallons of my my glaze, if I had big buckets of it, but it can become contaminated, and you have to know what you're doing. I'm not a real expert on glaze. I've tried enough of the Amico and Mako and what's that other brand? Opulence. Is that the name of that one? Anyway, I feel like I know enough about the colors that I know what I like. And I sort of stick, once I find what I like, I sort of stick to it. Stick with it. So here's my method of knowing how many layers I've put on here. I've got this mark. Let's see if you can see that. Yeah, you can see that. So I already had one coat of glaze on this, and so now I'm going to put 2. So I'll know I did 2, and I know now that I only have 3 or maybe 3.5 more coats of glaze to go before this is ready to go to the other color for the interior. Excuse me. And these already have, if you can see those, let's get over here where you can see those. I've got a bunch of mugs. Excuse me. And those are ready to have the interiors glazed. Oh, that tea is just right this morning. So those are ready. I thought I'd get this ready since it's going to get the same treatment. So I'm going to go sit down and drink my tea, and I'll be back in a minute, or maybe 3 or 4. I made some tea in a glass jar so that you could see what those tea leaves, they look like. Well, they unfold in the hot water. So there, some of them are down in the bottom right now because they're saturated, and then some of them are up in the top. There's my grandbaby. There's me and my grandbaby right there. Nothing goes better with tea than a grandbaby. Here is, let me open this package. And I like monkey picked tea. And let me show you what this looks like. So coming out of the package, I won't scald myself. Ouch, ouch. There's a little tea bag holder squeezer thing that my little sister made for me. This is what the monkey picked tea looks like. Each tea leaf shrivels up. They dried this in the shade, and I'll tell you the story. I'm kind of telling you the story backwards, and not intended, but so these are just like little pellets, and they just curl up when they're dried, and then when you put them in here, they just unfold, and it's an entire leaf each one. It isn't ground up or anything. So you're probably wondering why, as I did one time, why do they call it monkey picked? Is that kind of just a catchy name? No. The reason they call it monkey picked is because it is picked by monkeys. The very idea. So as we're watching this, some of those leaves are beginning to settle down in the jar of hot water. I typically make this in a teapot, but I wanted you to be able to see through this so you could see what's happening here. All tea comes from China, right? Or most of it does. And there's green tea, black tea, blah, blah tea. There's all kinds of tea. And matcha tea, different kinds of tea as it comes to us. But tea is growing out of the ground. It is tea. It's a tea plant, a tea leaf plant. And what makes the difference in green and monkey picked or black pico or different types of tea is the stage at which the tea leaf is harvested. And monkeys have been trained to pick the leaves at certain stages. Now, how did this happen? Well, the story goes like this. It happened when, oh look, Tigger fell off the refrigerator. His little sticky thing. Okay. There's another picture of me and my grandbaby. Yeah, there's Tigger. So, anyway, on the tea. So monks used to grow tea, or they probably still do, but it's a thing in Asian countries, as important as coffee is in other countries. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put coat number 3 on this pot, and then today I can get on with doing the insides of these. So anyway, the monkeys in China observed, and this is the story, so I don't know if it's absolutely 100% true. You know, sometimes stories are stories. But here's the way it goes. The monkeys observed the monks, kind of a play on words and so forth. Anyway, no pun intended, and there's no trickery here, but the monkeys in the mountains would observe the monks picking tea leaves. And so, being curious monkeys, they would go down, get close, and they observed which tea leaves the monks would pick. They observed how they would put them in the shade to dry, and of course then they probably packaged it or did whatever they did to take it somewhere to sell it. So the monks then observed the monkeys coming out of the mountains, and under the shade things, they probably rigged up some kind of shade cloth. I don't know. I don't think they had shade cloth back in the day, but they had something. But the monkeys would get underneath the awnings or the shades and pick the leaves the same way that the monks were doing. Now, monks generally pretty friendly types, and so they probably didn't chase these guys away, but they they saw the monkeys doing this, and they thought, ha ha ha, we could double our manpower if we just taught these guys how to pick tea, right? Okay, this is just too brilliant. So some monkeys would pick tea when it was a certain stage of growth or development, or whatever you want to call it. Maturity, maybe, would be a good word to use. So they taught the monkeys just by modeling the behavior. They taught them which leaves to pick at what time in certain plots or fields. So the monkeys were taught to pick the leaves, and that's how and why they call it monkey picked, because I believe that still goes on today, where the monkeys are picking tea leaves. So I wonder if monkeys like tea. That's interesting. I don't know whether monkeys eat the tea leaves or whether they drink tea after it's made. Who knows? But I think it's very clever for the monks in China, where they grow the tea, to have cooperated with the monkeys in the mountains to do that sort of thing. I think that's brilliant. I wish I had some monkeys. I'd teach them how to vacuum floors and scrub the dishes. And actually, if I had some monkeys, I would teach them how to glaze pots. Wouldn't that be cool? Okay, now this has 3 coats on it, as we can see by the marks here. You know, I like the idea of teaching monkeys to glaze pottery. I think I have done that. And I think that, whoops, it's getting a little uneven. Maybe I have to wait till this is dry, but maybe I can hold this up. So I believe I have taught monkeys to do pottery. And I think anybody who has ever taught kids in a pottery class has also had experience modeling behavior and teaching monkeys how to do stuff. Because some of those little kids are very much like monkeys. I think they've observed some monkeys and they know how the monkeys behave. Isn't that funny? We don't know what we're doing when we take our kids to the zoo. They come home acting like monkeys. Okay, I don't want the glaze to be beyond this sharp edge right there. Now that one I can't pick up until it gets dry, but the, I've got a glob of glaze right there that I don't want to be there. Here we go. So anyway, when I'm able to, I'll pick that up and clean off the bottom. So these, let me clean my hand off. I've already cleaned the bottom of these. Anyway, okay, we're gonna let this dry completely, and then I'll come back. We'll clean the rim of this and clean the rim of this, and maybe clean that some more because that's kind of got streaks on it now. And we will glaze the insides of the pots, and it's going to be some color of blue. It's probably going to be a light blue that we're going to do the inside of those, so that, because this is going to turn out quite dark. Actually, I'll show you what that looks like. Here is a bowl. So this is kind of what this copper float looks like. It's got a metallic, whatever, it's metallic. And then the inside, but on these, I cleaned off the rim, and it doesn't have glazed, okay? So but it still feels like it's sealed up real good. And I love this. And I like the contrast of this dark rim, and that's the clay color right here, the fired clay color. And so between the light on the inside, dark on the outside, I just like that contrast. And here's a mug that's similar. This is the copper float on the outside, and I don't know if you can, let me turn a light on here. Maybe you can see the inside, and I'll turn it towards the light. But on this one, I put something. What did I put around there? I either put, since it's dark on the runs, I'm guessing that it's iron luster. It could be Chino cream that I probably just dipped it in there to put something on the rim. So this one, same colors, but it has glaze on the rim, and this one has no glaze on the rim, and I love this that has no glaze on the rim. So in this next fire that I'm going to do with these and this, and there's already a bunch of it loaded, I'm going to clean off the rims and fire it that way. So maybe it's some of the residual glaze that I'm unable to get off the rim that is causing that toasty color, but I love it. So I'm gonna experiment with these, and that may be my new signature color. We'll see.